We'll call the committee to order. Do I have a motion to go into executive session?
So moved.
We have a motion and a second to go into executive session. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
The ayes have it, and we are in executive session. On the list this morning, we start with the Office of Personal Licensure Certification. Number one on the list is $200,000 a year. Anything from LBA?
Yep, I just wanted to know on number one, this is for 3 full-time temp positions. On the recap sheet, it has 200,000, but if in front of you, you should also have an amendment of the exact breakdown of the amount. That comes up to 191,024 and 200,025.
Okay. Comments from the senators? Senator Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm okay with this, given everything that we're asking OPLC to do with several different pieces of legislation.
Okay, do I have a motion? Senator Pearl moves, seconded by Senator Rosenbaum. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the ayes have it. Technical correction on the next line. I don't know that I need to do anything, do I?
Nope, you could just vote to approve yea or nay on this. It doesn't cost anything. It's just, it's an item that came in after the meeting. OPLC noticed that they had a cost of $7,000 for a transcription service contract, so they just wanted to transfer some funds from one class to another to cover this cost.
Okay, do I have a motion? I'll move it.
Second.
And we have a second. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. Ayes have it. All right, now we're down to HB2.
Is HB2 Amendment 2023-1752S. This is Senator Pearl's amendment, deleting a section in HB2 relative to electricians, corporations, and partnership licensing.
Discussion. Senator Pearl. Hit your mic.
I can do that. So the electricians came to me and asked to remove this. They're having some problems with the language that this is going to remove. And they wanted to, they're working with OPLC trying to find some compromise language because this changes their, one of their electricians' licensing. And they are working with OPLC, and OPLC was in agreement that it was fine to remove this, so that's why I put in the amendment.
Further discussion? Senator Pearl moves the item, seconded by Senator Rosenbaum. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The next one. HB2 would be Amendment 1777. Discussion.
Mr. Chair, as I recall, we were going to hold this one.
Well, I still
Would like to talk about it?
like a little bit of discussion that there is opposing views of whether or not the board is useful, not useful, needs to be changed, needs to be restructured because of other things, and anybody who wants to speak on it before I put it on hold,
Yeah.
be happy to have you do that.
I'll make a brief comment and just say that, you know, in commerce, we heard an awful lot about this board and the benefit that it provides to residents of said parks. And that's the motivation for keeping the board alive, at least temporarily.
Senator Pearl.
Thank you. So we had a bill similar to this. In fact, we've passed a bill in the Senate relating to this board. There are definitely some concerns and issues with the board in the way that it's functioning. And I still remain unconvinced that the changes we made really serve the public and fix the problems that are occurring. I might make a suggestion that we perhaps look at a different method of doing this. I'm a little uncomfortable with completely removing this appeal at this, the repeal at this point in time, because I honestly don't feel the board's working as well as it should. And I do know the changes would change how the board works, but as I said, I still remain unconvinced it's still gonna fix the real problem that I felt came out of testimony we had in ED&A. So I guess I would throw it out to perhaps Senator Innes or anyone here if there's other suggestions on how we should approach doing this.
I mean, I think one of the things, look, we need to do it better. There's no doubt about that, and we heard that in Commerce at length. I think at this point, the residents of these places will feel abandoned if we get rid of the board. The fact that it exists gives them a sense that they do have at least potentially an impartial voice that will hear their concerns and work with them to solve problems. And that's the impetus for this. But if there are other ways or better ways, I'm more than open to that.
So perhaps, if I may,
Certainly, Senator.
perhaps we should look into study committee, commission, something along that line, I don't know.
I could go in that direction, yeah. Now, the question is, would you keep the board during the study?
Well, that's a great question.
Right.
All right. Oh,
All I was gonna say is, having been very involved in this a year ago with changing the way resident-owned communities vote on whether to become resident-owned communities, and some of the complaints about the management of resident-owned communities, I think it's very important we not tinker at a minimum with the composition of the board if we're gonna keep the board.
Right, okay. Okay,
anyone else? This item is on hold.
thank you.
Moving on to page 4 in our booklets. Judicial Council.
Good afternoon. All 4 of these items, all 5 of these items do the same thing. They bring the budget to where the fiscal year '23 year-to-date spending is, considering the items that have come through the fiscal committee. The budget is proposed by the governor and passed along by the House. Had budgeted these lines higher than traditionally they are budgeted.
And these items aren't normally in the budget the way they are this year. And that's why the deletions.
They were budgeted at a higher level than they typically are.
Certainly, I think that they can come back to fiscal for more money, that the money doesn't need to be in there. Comments from senators? Senator Bradley?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I agree with this. There are, as I understand it, footnotes in HB1 that allow all of these entities to come back to fiscal and request the funds. It's my understanding those funds have always been approved. So I just feel for purposes of accountability and wise use of resources, having to come and ask fiscal makes that happen. So I would move that we adopt sections 1 through 5 of this sheet.
I'll second that.
Motion made by Senator Bradley, seconded by Senator Innes. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And we're on to page 5. Safety might as well come forward, whomever, and how many of you want to come forward, because I'm sure that we're going to ask.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair. Bob Quinn, Commissioner of Safety, joined by the Assistant Commissioner, Steve Lavoy.
Okay, LBA, comments? Oh. Hey,
We do have 16 items here for the Department of Safety. On page 5, the first 8 are their additional prioritized needs, and after that, we do have several House Bill 2 amendments. I would defer to the department to answer specific questions on this page.
I think that we want to take item 1 first. And that is funding existing Chief of Policy and Planning position. Comments from the Commissioner? Oh. Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you.
We'll let you speak first.
Note that my House Bill 2 amendment provides funding for this item and number 2.
Okay, your House Bill amendment is?
What item number is that?
11 on page 6.
11,
Oh, I see.
item number 11.
Okay,
Interesting.
item 11.
Yes,
Yeah. That's the processing fees.
which we don't need to discuss now, but it's a funding mechanism for what safety told us were their top 2 priorities.
Well, personally, I don't have a problem with item 1, and I do have a problem with item 11, which means that I would like to see them separated at least. Comments from others? Senator Bradley?
So, Commissioner, could you just describe what this position in number 1, the Chief of Policy and Planning, would do? My understanding from your earlier presentation is that this is a position specifically designed to deal with untoward events, mass casualty type events, with an eye toward prevention. Is that correct?
Yes, sir, it is. I mean, I've been speaking with my leadership team, and based on what's, happening across the country and what we're seeing, there are a lot of folks that are working or have a part of response, communication, preparation, mitigation. But I think having someone that is singularly assigned to that and dedicated to that, that can focus on that, the response and the prevention, I think is something that would put New Hampshire in a better place than we are today.
Mr. Chair, I'd move the funding for this.
We have a motion and a second to fund item number 1. Further discussion? We can take care of the amendment later if we do something with 11. So, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Okay. 2 through 8. Those are, as far as I know, those are all things that were presented to the House and not funded. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, did the senators want to take groups of those up together or all together? Or? Okay, we'll request to do number 2 separately, the data clerks. Discussion on 2.
Commissioner, are these 4 positions going to help alleviate some of the issues that, in the backups that we're having at the registration stations with long lines and people having issues getting appointments, or at least taking a while to get appointments?
Yeah, every position that we have will increase, and I would say the customer service. These are focused on driver history records, which is a financial responsibility, FR, which is an area that's it's really important to make sure that these complaints, convictions, accidents are processed quickly and timely, so that if somebody's license does have to be suspended, it's done contemporaneous to the action.
I follow.
Absolutely.
So these specifically won't be counter positions where we're actually moving folks through faster?
No, correct, but if these are not funded, it forces us to shift individuals from the counter to perform these back office functions to ensure that driving history records are up to date.
Okay, thank you.
Further discussion?
I'll move this item.
Second.
All right, this item has been moved and seconded. Bradley and Birdsall. Further discussion, seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it.
Mr. Chair, can I ask a question on number 7?
Absolutely.
So, I think we probably all are pretty supportive of security upgrades, especially the protective glass. But I guess my question is, 5 part-time plainclothes, unarmed security monitors. What's the point of somebody unarmed if you're trying to prevent that kind of problem?
So thank you for the question, Senator. So in a perfect world, you would have more armed, but we also have to put requests in. We have tried this model in certain areas, and it's more of a preventative, but it's a presence. And it would be somebody that would be able to guide people and contact law enforcement like immediately. So part of the safety plan. So again, to your point, it would be better to have someone that was armed if there was an active shooter, an active threat. But we're trying this model. We have one now in the first floor of headquarters that's just dealing with maybe unruly customers, but maybe alerting law enforcement sooner or the local law enforcement. So that's why we were looking at this model. And also being aware of what we are able to hire. So this was, I would say, our best option.
Additional?
Mr. Chair, follow?
Yes, sir.
So, the protective glass, what kind of a number are we looking at just to fund the protective glass?
100,000.
100,000?
Yes, sir.
I have to say, I'd still feel better with the personnel if they were armed.
We can look at that model, sir. We can look at that. Absolutely. You know, with the glass, we've been kind of tracking situations and events that have happened. The director's been looking at issues where they've dealt with unruly customers at the counter, at the window. There's been some recent events that have required law enforcement. So we're looking at kind of an approach that takes care of the customer service and makes the employees feel safer without, putting a wall up there. So in all of these agencies, there are some buildings that have law enforcement there. As you're familiar with, Troop F, Troop E, they're right next door. But in some of the areas where the response might be a little longer, local law enforcement. But we can look at that model, and if the funding is there, get a contract for some armed security. So that is an option.
Senator Bradley?
So I would move that we move $100,000, that's what you said, right, for the glass, into 23. So that would reduce the expenditure to $370,000. I don't know, maybe we should put a hold on that and see more detail.
Senator Birdsall did want to speak, so. Oh, and Senator Ennis also.
Go ahead, please.
Thank you. Nick, you said that you've been doing this in some of the security monitors. Did you say that you have been doing this model?
We have one now at headquarters, 33 Hazen Drive, first floor, outside of the Bureau of Hearings. And Manchester, the Manchester DMV, so there's 2.
Okay, follow.
Follow on?
So how many other facilities would you be using, or is this just to back up the 2 that you have?
We'd be looking to use these individuals in the higher volume DMVs across the state. So Salem, Nashua, Dover, and then wherever else. We may have one that's a floating position that can assist the other locations.
Thank you.
Senator Ennis?
Senator Birdsall.
Already covered your issue. Okay. And Senator Bradley, you want to put this one on hold for,
We can put it on hold.
just in case that funding is different than the 100K in 23, as long as there's highway funds that we cover it, so.
Well,
I
are we
keep-
gonna do the 100K
I'm fine with that.
right now
We can?
in 23? I think we should, just
All right.
simplify
Senator
it.
Bradley moves that we move 100K from 2024 into 2023.
Senator, can I just clarify? When you say 23, you're referring to general fund?
Yes, I am.
Okay, just to clarify that for everybody.
So is that for the glass? Is that for the glass?
That's for the glass.
That's the glass.
Okay. So they're gonna get the glass earlier?
They would be able to do it earlier, except you're not gonna pass the budget until the last day. So you're gonna need the continuation language, but
Okay.
yes, you know. All
Thank
right.
you, thank you for that.
But we have, did we get a second on
I
that?
did.
I'll second.
Senator Pearl, thank you.
All right,
We need a vote.
yeah, we're going to. But again, making sure that it's general funds is the thing, because I was questioning whether we could do that with highway funds, and I don't think we could, but.
I think Senator Bradley's intent is general fund
General
surplus
fund.
23 appropriations for this, yep.
Okay, does everyone understand what we're voting on? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Okay. 3, 4, 5, and 6. I haven't heard any comments on those. I would, if we're not going to take any action, I don't believe we need to do anything because it's additional requests, so there's no changes if we don't do it, don't fund them. So unless I hear differently from you, sense of committee, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? 8, we haven't dealt with. I guess people are interested in learning a little bit more about the substation, why the request is as low as it is, and whether or not that should be included in the capital budget for the next fiscal year. And I'll turn it over to you guys.
Sure, so I can address those questions. So this is to create a substation, a DMV substation in the Plymouth area. It's an area right now that's not serviced by a specific location. Individuals in the Lakes region can choose to go to Concord or they can go to Tamworth. And so there's a demand for service there, and we are seeing increased lines in both Concord and Tamworth, and this would help address those issues. The costs are lower than you'd expect for a standalone facility because this is for a leased facility. So the DMV is moving towards leased operations. It gives us more flexibility when we need to grow. And those are the costs that are shown here would be to rent and fit up a new location in the Plymouth area in FY25.
Senator Birdsall.
Thank you, and thank you for taking my question. Is this gonna be like a full-time facility or part-time?
That would be full-time, Monday through Friday.
Thank you.
I'll second that. It's an issue in the northern part of my district. Yep.
Senator Birdsall, seconded by Senator Ennis. Move approval. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Wait. The ayes have it. Page 6. Northern border, item number 9. And we might as well talk about 10 at the same time, I guess.
Catches it from lines.
Yeah.
Senator Bradley?
Yes, this amendment restores the governor's request for an enhanced border security on the northern border. It's $1.4 million. We've seen, I think it's a 1,300% increase in apprehensions or encounters, whatever you want to call it, on the northern border. I think given what's going on at the southern border, we had best do this. The fentanyl crisis is unending, and any vulnerability, whether it's the southern border, which we've seen is very vulnerable, and the northern border we should not allow it to become vulnerable. It's killing kids on our street, and to me, this is a absolute high priority.
Did you want to comment on 10 at the same time, since it,
So the Senate rejected that same bill last Thursday that would have mandated public disclosure of federal immigration checkpoints, same rationale. Thought we had a good discussion on it, but we should delete that section from HB2.
okay, we will be voting on the amendment separately, but since they both are pretty much on the same subject, Senator Rosenbaum.
Thank you. When Safety came in to talk about their budget, and Senator Bradley asked what their top priorities were, they did not mention the Northern Border Alliance funding. In addition, they have not been able to produce any data about what is happening on the New Hampshire border. And I would just say these two sections were really important to securing the bipartisan budget agreement in the House. So I hope we will not adopt either of them. But I would like to request a roll call vote.
Okay, roll call vote has been requested on both or one?
Well, both, but if we take them up separately.
Yep, we will be.
Thank you.
Further discussion?
I'm sorry I arrived late.
No problem, Senator.
Discussion. But quick, if you could give me a quick pricing on, I know this was taken out of the House budget and it's been reinstated here. So this is to fund the program?
Yes.
Is this to fund actual bodies or overtime?
The amendment is in your packet on page 8, 9, and 10, Senator.
Okay.
If you'd like a little chance to look at those, we
If I
can
could,
certainly.
Okay. I mean, we all know full well we don't have enough troopers. We're down 70 bodies. We can't cover the roads now as we speak. And if you look at the number of collisions that have taken place on our highways and the number of deaths that have taken place, because we don't have any troopers. We just don't have anybody to monitor the highways at this point in time. And to designate money to do other things when we don't have enough money to take care of our own. And I mean, I drove up the FEF, what is now the FEF Turnpike, and saw what has happened to the guardrails on that facility. I ask all of you to take a ride up and down. They're smashed to smithereens. They are absolutely despicable. You can't see them. They've been knocked that far off of the road. And somebody died because of that, I'm sure. Somebody passed away. We can't have that. We've got great troopers. They do a great job. We just don't have enough of them. We do not have enough of them. We're losing our colonel at the end of June. We got to replace the colonel. What's going on here? I think we just can't do these kinds of things without the manpower. It just can't be done. So I'll quickly glance through the two amendments, but obviously it's got to call for more money and more troopers, and we can't do either.
Further discussion? Senator Bradley?
Thank you. Well, I appreciate Senator D'Alessandro's, point of view, and I would say that I believe this Finance Committee is going to recommend the pay raise completely that was negotiated. I think that'll help with retention and recruitment. But I would remind my friend from Manchester, because you're at the epicenter of over 400 people in New Hampshire dying from fentanyl, we have a problem. We have a problem on the southern border, and we do not want to have the same problem on the northern border. People are dying. Fentanyl is leading to the homeless crisis. We're going to get to funding for homelessness. Fentanyl is exacerbating the mental health crisis. We have put huge amounts of money into mental health. This is a problem. We need this kind of security within 25 miles of the border. The statistics that the governor cited of the northern border situation, New York, Vermont, and New Hampshire, a 1,300% increase in encounters and apprehensions. It's well documented. And we see every night on TV the absolute chaos on the southern border. We should be learning our lessons from what's going on the southern border, knowing that people are dying on the streets of your city, sir.
I couldn't agree more with...
Senator, you're recognized.
Thank you. I couldn't agree more with what you've said. But if we don't have any cops to police the area, southern border or northern border, these things are going to happen. My goal would be to fill those 70 positions, to get another colonel, and to get us going full time. But to look at spending $1.4 billion on overtime when we don't have people, what are we going to do? I recognize fentanyl. I recognize. Look, Manchester is the urban center of the state. The urban center of the state. As I've said on more than one occasion, I have 8 schools in my district that are minority schools. That means there are more Hispanics and blacks in my schools than there are whites. And where's the bulk of the problem? The bulk of the problem is the transmission of this fentanyl from the south, from the Lawrence area, the greater Lawrence area. I think that's where it's coming from. And it's coming into our area. And who's it infecting? It's infecting our minority kids, and it's also gravitated up to the wealthy because of the desire on the part of the individuals. So I would say, let's spend the money to get people, to get our troopers on board. We've got to face another situation here, the pay of the majors. We've overpaid majors, since 2017. We're going to ask them to give money back. We've got to develop, hopefully, a clawback provision so that doesn't have to happen. But indeed, if you don't have people, if you can't get those troopers on the road, and I drove up today from Manchester, I didn't see one trooper on the road. I didn't see one car on the road. I had to stop a month ago for an accident on the FEF Turnpike. I called 911. They got a trooper. That trooper was at the Mass line. He drove up from the Mass line to Hooksett. I said, "Who's on this job with you?" He said, "I'm the only guy. I'm the only guy doing the Mass line. From the Mass line to the Hooksett tolls, north and south." So we need people. And obviously that the drug situation is appalling. It's terrible. It's awful. I understand that. There are kids from my area that are dying. Hey, the gunshots in the war over the weekend was in Manchester at a high school graduation. You don't think that those kids were infected by drugs? I'm sure they were. They're shooting at each other at a high school graduation party. So look at, safety should be our concern. We should focus on where the problem is and get the people to fix the problem. Like, kudos to my Manchester Police, well, the Manchester Police Department. They do a great job. And actually, they got a couple of troopers, right? Didn't a couple of troopers come to Manchester and
help?
become Manchester police officers? Okay, but it just shows you what's happening in the environment. I've said enough. Thank you. Thank you,
Senator
Mr.
Bradley
Chairman.
moves Amendment 1600S, and I second it. We have a request for a roll call. Further discussion?
Yes, thank you. I think all of that northern border, very little of it is New Hampshire, because we're the one that points up. So most of that border is New York State and Vermont. If we really want to stop the drugs that are killing people in New Hampshire, the fentanyl that's coming in from Lawrence, I think there are two things we could do that would be more effective. One would be to better fund Granite Shield, which gets very little state funding, if it still gets any anymore. And the second thing would be to have a doorways program that didn't just operate Monday through Friday, almost business hours, and isn't open nights and weekends. I think this is not going to stop the problem that has been identified. Thank you.
Further discussion? Seeing none, clerk will call the roll. All right, the chair will call the roll.
Senator Gray,
Yes.
Senator Ennis,
Yes.
Senator Bradley,
Yes.
Senator Birdsall,
Yes.
Senator Pearl,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald,
No.
Senator D'Alessandro.
The ayes have it. Amendment 1604, Senator Bradley, do you move that one also?
I move that one, thank you.
And I will second that one. Further discussion? Roll call?
Senator Gray,
Yes.
Senator Ennis,
Yes.
Senator Bradley,
Yes.
Senator Birdsall,
Yes.
Senator Pearl,
Yes.
Senator Rosenwald.
No.
Senator D'Alessandro.
Ayes have it. We're on to 11. This is the credit card stuff.
Yep. And I'd like to move Amendment 1554S and speak to it, please.
I'd second the amendment.
We have a motion and a second on 1554.
Okay, so this amendment requires the Department of Safety to not fund the credit card fees that are assessed to people who are using credit cards to pay their fines or other transactions. There are other state agencies, notably the Department of Revenue Administration, where if you want to pay your taxes by credit card, you have to pay an added 2.3% fee. If I want to register my car in Nashua, I can either pay cash or write a check. But if I want to use a credit card, because I want to build up airline miles, I have to pay an extra fee. I think this is reasonable for a couple reasons. One, we should all be concerned about the health of the highway fund. Two, the House had to add $300,000 of general funds to pay for the credit card fees, and we had to add, I think it was few $100,000 more during the year in fiscal because the agency can't self-fund it. So I think using credit cards is a convenience for the consumer, but we should be consistent across state agencies and not be subsidizing the convenience of consumers. So this would turn up enough money to pay for the 5 positions that we already voted to authorize. Thank you.
Senator Pearl?
Thank you. A question for Senator Rosenwald, actually. So there are other agencies that have a credit card policy, but not all agencies do? Is that what I'm understanding?
Well, not all agencies interact with consumers in that way. I know that DRA does. If you want to use a credit card to pay for your taxes, they right on the homepage, it says they will add 2.30% to your taxes for your convenience to use a credit card. The only agency I know of that does not charge the customer is the judicial branch. And I think they're a little bit different because, they're a separate branch of government that we can't really tell how to do things. All we do is pretty much give them an appropriation and they regulate themselves. But also the kinds of interactions that they have with the public are different as well. Many of them are, constitutional rights. So I just think it's fair to the highway fund and to the taxpayer to not be underwriting my convenience if I want to just put everything I spend on a credit card because I want to take a trip to California at the end of the year.
Senator Pearl, you still have the floor?
So how would this work with fees that are paid at the municipal level that go to the state?
I think we'd have to ask the department that question.
So I guess my question is, when I go register my car at my town clerk, I can pay the state portion there, but I might use my credit card at that point. But it's actually going through the town system, and at least my understanding of it. So how would that work if we were to pass this?
I want to kind of put a hold on this. I think we're going too far down in the weeds on this one. If people want to have discussions offline, we can put this thing on hold. I'm certainly not in favor of doing it piecemeal, bill by bill by bill, department by department by department. And so, I'll continue on that, but Senator D'Alessandro had his hand up before.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Not with reference to what Senator Pearl said, because I can't address that, but I went to have my car fixed, and the person who was fixing my car said, if you pay by credit card, you have to pay an extra 3%. If I paid by cash or by check, it was as it was on the bottom line of the bill. Restaurants are now saying that if you use a credit card, they're adding a charge. So this is becoming universal. This is not something that's just appearing at the state level. But think of this. When we have to appropriate $300,000 to collect your money, there's something wrong there. There's something radically wrong. What does that do to the money you're collecting? It diminishes it by $300,000. So what you were to spend the money on has been decreased by the amount of money you had to pay to collect the money. Now that doesn't make, now the loan sharks might like that, because they not only take the money, but they take a little bit more. But we're a legitimate business. And as a result of that, we should be collecting 100% of the dollar, because that's how we run the agency. If we don't get that, we're hurt someplace along the line. And I think the deficiency takes place when more and more and more and more people are using credit cards. I mean, cash is disappearing, for all practical purposes. My kids all have credit cards. I'm the only dumb one that pays with cash. So I think this is a problem that we're gonna have to deal with, and we ought to face it early rather than facing it late when we find out what the real value is. It's 300,000 this year, but it may be 600,000 next year. And if we accept that, there's an escalator there that keeps going up. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, so
If I
we've
might.
got Senator Innes followed by Senator Rosenthal.
I find it curious that we want to pass this to protect taxpayers from inequitably covering other people's fees by charging them a fee. This is yet another example of a junk fee. We already saw it proposed in the Senate with a $1 to $2 a night charge on hotel rooms, and now we want to stick it to the consumer again. If you own a business, you know that this sort of fee is part of the cost of doing business. Your job is to serve your customers, not nickel and dime them at every chance you get. Effectively, this results in a 2 to 3% increase in fees to the taxpayers. I agree it should be consistent across agencies, and I would argue none of them should be charging a 2 to 3% fee for a credit card transaction. How mad do you get at Ticketmaster? How would you feel if at the grocery store, Hannaford said, you know what, 3% more if you're gonna use a credit card? Come on. I mean, we've got to put a stop to this. If the agency needs more money, maybe they should come to us and talk about raising their fees as opposed to charging what I think is absolutely a junk fee and something that our president has said he's very much opposed to. So just because other people are doing it, that doesn't make it right. And I think we owe it to the customers of the DMV to treat them like customers and not like a revenue stream. Thank you.
Senator Rosenthal.
Thank you. I guess I respectfully disagree that these are junk fees. This fee costs the highway fund, which is supposed to be used for the highway and the safety and maintenance of our roads, $300,000 a year. And the highway fund is already losing money as people drive more and more efficient cars. I just don't see this as a junk fee, but penalizing state resource that everybody uses for the convenience of some customers. We'll say that the department has the statutory authority to do this now. They don't need us to give them the authority. They have just chosen not to. Thank you.
Senator D.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I appreciate the distinguished senator used to be from Newcastle, but now has moved to the country, and talking about fees. We perform a service. The state performs a service, and we pay for that service. And we pay for that service based on the dollars that are given to us. When we have to discount the dollars by a certain percent, then how are we doing the fees? I can't say to you, I'm only gonna do 70% of the work that's done on this road because I need the other 30% to pay to absorb the cost of what it costs to pay for the road. I mean, it's a vicious circle. Well, we could fix it by increasing the gas tax. But then we'd say we got another fee, and we could do a lot of things. But in the final analysis, we're being asked to provide service. We can't provide that service if we don't have the money. we can't hire people. We have a 20% vacancy rate. Part of the reason is because our salaries are low. We're gonna make a big difference by this 10% increase in pay. But indeed, I mean, Charlie Ponzi might have got away with that scheme a long time ago, but we can't keep doing that. We can't keep doing this. We just can't keep doing this. Now, I know what the votes are, but I say to you, if you had to absorb a 30% discount for everything you did, those eggs that you're selling for $5, you know, you're gonna be losing money on every dozen. What would that do to your chickens? They'd get nervous.
They're nervous already.
Those chickens wouldn't lay any eggs, knowing for sure that they're only worth 70%. We gotta hang in here. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
All right, the chair wants his 2 cents now. Certainly, I don't agree with the amendment as it's written. I believe that the state needs a policy that is, covers all the departments. If there are reasons we should do one or the other, then certainly, you know, that can be taken up. I think that we have the current chair of ED&A here on the committee, and I think that a bill should be written and it should be taken up, and that's why I will vote against your amendment. And so we do have a motion and a second on the bill. Unless there's further discussion, I would like to vote on the amendment. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those,
Sorry.
we'll start again. We'll start again. We have amendment 1554, okay? And all those in favor of the amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
And all those opposed, say nay. Nay. Okay.
I was
And
Jason Tatum in Game 6 up until 4 minutes to go.
And I think that there's certainly a lot of other discussion that needs to happen on this one. So that's going to go in the hold button now that we've got the amendment taken care of. All right, 12.
I forgot to pass on items 12 and 13. Looking at the amendment for 1705 and 1706, we have a shortage of troopers. This would increase the number of auxiliary troopers hired from 15 to 22, and it would allow for the training of these auxiliary troopers.
Since 12 and 13 are not compatible with each other, I need you to pick one and.
Well, let's do 12 first, and then we'll do 13. We'll in favor of that.
It's up to you, Senator.
Also, I move item 12, and that's amendment 1705. In 1705, that amendment authorizes the director to recruit, train, and organize an auxiliary police force for the purpose of providing auxiliary services. So it allows you to train them and move them forward. It seems to me to be a good way for us to go.
For the audience, both here and at home, the difference between 1705 and 1706 is one takes the limit off altogether, and the other one takes the limit and moves it from what it is now to 22. All right, 1705 is what's before us. Is there further discussion? Senator Bradley.
Senator D, it's your lucky day. I'll second it.
Okay. Senator Rosenwald has a question.
I do.
I mean, Senator Birdsall has a question.
Same color hair.
I get the,
I know.
it's my dyslexia. How's that?
I just have a quick question. Thank you for taking my question. Do we already have forgive me, do we already have an auxiliary police program?
Yes, there's been auxiliary police force for years, Senator, and in recent legislative sessions, they capped the number that the colonel could add to that contingency at 16. So this would allow flexibility if we had more, and it doesn't even have to be retired state troopers, it could be local officers, but they really do support and enhance, and it's really important today with the vacancies that we have. So if we can get somebody to join the ranks of auxiliary, and whether they're working in the sex offender registry or the intelligence and analysis center, there's places, part-time work that have really been a boon, doing backgrounds, those types of things. Keeps the troopers on the road
Follow up.
and assist them.
So you already have a training program in place for these,
We do.
okay,
We-
thank you.
Further discussion? All those in favor of Amendment 1705, say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. And since that's the more inclusive one, I'm sure that Senator D'Alessandro doesn't want us to take action on the other one.
Well, we need to take action on the other one, because we set the different one.
No,
Yeah.
we took the limit off altogether. That was the most permissive of the two amendments. Unless I'm wrong, Senator, I'll give you a chance to look at it. All right. So we will be not taking any action on 13 because 12 took care of it. All right. Number 14,
Yes, sir.
Senator.
This is an amendment, 1665, and it addresses really what amounts to an oversight from the bill that passed through the Senate, establishing a $100 surcharge to the registration fee on electric vehicles. The purpose behind that was to try to bring a little bit of equality to the fees that an electric car owner pay versus the driver of a gas car that's paying the gasoline tax. And we recognized, Senator Waters and I, that hybrids kind of fall in between. Part gas, part electric. So this bill, or this amendment, puts in a $50 fee for plug-in hybrids.
Further discussion?
And I move the amendment. Thank you.
Senator Ennis moved. Second by Senator D'Alessandro. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it.
What are you driving?
Item 15.
He's consistent.
He is that.
Okay, item 15, Amendment 1773.
This is yours.
Yep. And what that does is takes care of the future, paying this differential pay. It intentionally does not talk to the past. Comments? Discussion? Seeing none, I will move the item. Seconded by Senator Bradley. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Uh, 16 is also mine. I don't believe that I am going to make a motion for Amendment 1644. That was certainly out there for discussion purposes, and I'll open it up for discussion. Senator Bradley.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. So if you look at your amendment,
Page 18.
page 18, line 16 and 17, such fees shall approximate the expense of issuing the copy of the motor vehicle record. While that seems as if would be no problem, my understanding is, and maybe our witnesses can correct me if I'm wrong, that the fire fund would potentially be depleted of over $9 million. I don't think that we can do that. What my understanding is that the department, in order to fund the fire fund is looking for a fee of $17 as opposed to the current $13, and correct me if I'm wrong if that's not right. So what I propose is that we authorize the department to go to $17, but make it clear that any future increases in the fee would have to get legislative approval. That amendment's obviously not ready, it's just an idea, but that's what I think we should do.
I think in statutes, it's easy enough to do that one, to raise a fee, that we can do it as a committee amendment. Further discussion? Again, if you want to wait to see it, if you're the only one, then I might do, not do something, but again, the amendment is going to cross out 13 and put in 17, and the existing language is going to stay the same. So that's why I was comfortable with it being a committee amendment. Okay, so Senator Bradley moves, and I'll second that the fee be increased from 13 to 17. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. And the ayes have it.
And just to clarify for the committee, that statute does refer to $13 fee as well as a $15 fee for other types of requests. All those fees would just be 17 under this committee amendment. And I think that's the intent that,
Wasn't that the proposal of what you wanted?
Yes, it was.
Yeah.
so just to clarify for everybody.
Do any of the senators want a revote on that item since there's a clarification after? Seeing none, moving on. We're up to the Department of Business and Economic Affairs, and I'm going to be in recess for at least 10 minutes.
Okay.
Thank you.
It would be nice if safety could start working with the Commissioner of Insurance, because for the fire safety, it would be more effective on your homeowner's policy that covers the fire We'll call the committee back to order. Page 19, number 1. Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. Number 1, which is a House Bill 1 amendment, would restore the Small Business Development Center back to the level in the governor's budget. These folks do incredible work. They don't charge small businesses, and those businesses can be like up to 500 employees. They're fantastic. And with a little bit more money that the governor wanted to give them, they can do a whole lot more. So I hope we will adopt this funding. They're really the only state funding, the only state program that provides this kind of help to small businesses at no cost. And their the amount of money they leverage is great, and it's a terrific program that's helping our small businesses. Thank you.
Okay, Senator Rosenwald moves passage. Seconded by Senator D'Alessandro. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. Number 2.
Sure. Number 2 is a request from the department. It's an increase of $17,800 over the biennium to the Office of Planning and Development's budget. This was to account for an increase in funding contributions from DES and DOT, as the Office of Planning and Development provides annual funding to these agencies for various projects.
Discussion.
Second.
We have a motion from Senator Birdsall, seconded by Senator Innes, ought to pass. Further discussion, seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Item is adopted. 3.
It's just a transfer.
Yep.
I'll move it.
Senator Innes moves, seconded by Senator D. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any nays? The ayes have it. Number 4.
Number 4 is request from the department for 4 new general funded positions to administer the Invest New Hampshire program, which appears in HB 2.
Discussion.
Yes.
Good afternoon.
Item 4?
Yep, this is $391,000 in both years.
Yes, so this request is really sort of associated with what I would say number 5. So what we had requested was that if we are going to be funding Invest NH into the future using state revenues, which has several benefits as we've discussed, we wanted to be able to have the opportunity to have funding available to fund the staff beyond the current deadlines that would have to be adhered to under the federal ARPA funds. So we are funding them currently using the federal resources. If we were going to make a significant extension of the Invest NH funds and ask them to administer those funds, I would need to have some state funding in order to continue staffing the remaining resources under the state-funded components of Invest NH.
But they were not in the governor's budget, correct?
That's correct.
And they were not in the House budget.
That's correct. So they were, the funding for this would come from the Invest NH appropriation itself. If there was an increase in those funds, we would request a percentage of those funds to pay the salaries of those individuals from state general revenue.
He's confusing me, but Senator Rosen.
Well, I'm confused too. Thank you. So, the ARPA funds, which are currently funding Invest NH, you can spend through 2026, which is beyond this next budget. So how are we not funding some positions with ARPA funds? But are you looking, if we add more money, you need 4 new positions?
I think the request is rooted in the fact that if we were going to extend the Invest NH program by the $30 million that was in the governor's budget, that's a substantial increase in funding. That if we were to go beyond the full extent of utilizing the federal resources to pay for those revenues, we wanted to have an associated administrative cost to cover those costs on the state side in place. So with those funded positions.
Thank you.
Senator Bradley.
Thank you very much. Look, I think that Invest NH has done a good job of trying to jumpstart more housing. But I'm also going to speak against 4 and 5 because I think that we get more bang for our dollar with affordable housing and the Affordable Housing Fund. I want to keep to the House level of housing funding, which was $45 million, and I think we have to do something for homeless services. So that's my view on it. Sorry, Taylor, but
I understand, Senator.
That's how I see it.
Okay, I understand, Senator.
All right, so unless there's a motion, we will be taking no action on 4 or 5. Sent to the committee. All those in favor?
Yes.
Aye?
Aye.
Okay. 6.
Item number 6 is an amendment 2023-1763. It's Senator Bradley's amendment, and it's changing the Invest New Hampshire language to remove the grants and municipalities portion and add in loans and housing developers, which was in the original governor's language, and then to reduce the appropriation from 15 million to 10 million.
Discussion, Senator Bradley.
So we may, obviously my intent is to go from the 15 that the House passed down to 10, which is where the 5 million comes in. We may need a committee amendment to go back to the governor's original language, which is grants for either developers or municipalities. I think the way the House wrote it, it's grants to municipalities only. I think it should be open to both, and I think that if the committee agrees with that, that language could be easily added as a committee amendment. I agree.
Senator Rosenbaum.
Thank you. I'm going to float another committee amendment, which is the Senate's position on Invest NH, which was a requirement that 20% of the housing be affordable and that the period of affordability be for 10 years. And that was the Senate's position on Invest NH.
If I can respond to that?
Certainly, Senator.
I agree, and that should be a committee amendment. I think we wanted a 10-year period and 20%.
At least 20%.
Right, and that, I believe, is in the amended version of Senator Innes's bill.
Commissioner?
Yes. But
I'll give you a chance to shake, to say something in addition to shaking your head.
I think that works fine, Senator.
But can I ask a
Senator?
question? Because that language does not exist in 1763S. Would we need to add it since Senate Bill 231 is on the table?
I believe that we would need the committee amendment to do exactly what you had said. You know, go to the
And go
20 years
to-
of affordability. To
Along,
add the words that Senator Bradley wanted, and there was, I don't, how to word.
20% of the housing being affordable for at least 10 years.
And LBA says they've got all of that.
Yep, I have the
Thank you.
language in front of me, and I can add that to the amendment, get a new amendment for it.
Okay. All those in favor, are seeing no other discussion, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Wait, did I actually, I didn't get a
I'll
motion.
move it.
So Bradley
Sorry.
moves it, Innes seconds it. We want to make sure that we get this right. All right, so we'll go back, and all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Further discussion on 7?
So number 7 was a request from BEA to restore the creation of the Office of Regulatory Review, Reduction in Government Efficiency. That was in the original HB2. This also came with a $750,000 appropriation.
Discussion?
I mean, I would just say I like the idea of it, but I'm happy with the House position, just in an attempt to try to make sure we live within our means.
So we will be taking no action on 7?
Mr. Chair, I am curious why it's funded 1 year only?
Commissioner?
750 in '24, nothing in '25. Strikes me as odd.
That's a good question, Senator.
Okay.
I can answer that.
Oh, we have.
I'm sorry, go right ahead.
So it's 750,000, language is 750,000 over the biennium.
Okay,
So it's
so
intended.
however they use it, yeah, whichever year, got it.
Thank you. All right.
So if I can give any advice on this, I think a separate bill next year that is fully scrutinized would be a much better way to go.
Happy to help.
Okay, so we only need a sense of the committee on this, take no action. All those in favor? Aye?
Aye.
Okay, opposed? Okay, moving on. Looks like 8, 9, and 10 kind of go together, even though we've got a couple of bills. They all deal with Senate Bill 145, starting off with 8. Discussion. I think that if you do not, oh, Senator Bradley?
Well, what I would say is, again, trying to keep within the overall spending that was appropriated by the House, which was $45 million. 15 for invest, and 30 for the Affordable Housing Fund. I think there will be subsequent amendments, but I'll outline it here. It would be my view that we would reduce the Affordable Housing Fund to $20 million, knowing, and it hasn't been discussed much, that there is a transfer from the real estate transfer tax every year of $5 million for the Affordable Housing Fund. So if we funded it in this budget at $20 million, knowing there's an additional $10 million that's already in law and statute will happen, that would be 30. I would propose $5 million for Housing Champions, start at a level that is a start, see how it works. Housing Champion is designed to be an initiative that partners the state with local communities to promote housing density that more rewards affordable housing. I think $5 million is a good start. Senator Rosenwald obviously will want to discuss this. And then, while I'm not sure the amendment is ready for today, the balance of the $45 million that the House passed, I will have an amendment on services for homeless, which I think we need to address also. And that overall will keep within the House spending amount.
Senator Innes?
I like the Housing Champions Bill. I think it does all the right things. While I'd like to see us funded at a higher level, I'm generally supportive of a $5 million start. Let's see how it works. We can come back to it. And, you know, if it does work as we anticipate, I hope the body will support further funding. I'll leave it there for now. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Okay, so, from what I've heard, I'm gonna take a motion on number 9, and that is Amendment 1776S, moved by Senator Ennis, seconded Senator Pearl. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? The ayes have it. And with that, I would guess that we'll have a committee that says we'll take no action on 9 and 10 at this time.
Well, I would like to move number 10 for discussion.
Okay, so we'll do 8 first then. All we need is a sense of committee on 8.
The sense of the committee is we take no action.
Take no action. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. All those opposed? Okay, and down to 10, Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. I am supportive of this program, and I appreciate Senator Bradley's amendment, but I would just point out that there are a couple of pieces that help BEA administer the municipal grant programs that I don't see in Senator Bradley's amendment, which are a total of $4 million over the biennium to administer the municipal grant programs. So I get that you don't want to do 19 million, but I think we should ask the department whether they have the resources to administer the program that we're appropriating $5 million for.
Well, Senator, I think it kind of goes to what we were discussing earlier, which is that we have right now a 3-member staff that is funded by ARPA resources, using those federal resources, and those are limited exclusively to the Invest NH program itself. This state program would be administered in our Office of Planning and Development, which would be adding a significant new component to their activity. I'd have to really go back and look at the provisions of what we're being asked to do here. If it's at a $5 million or more level, I don't think that necessarily matters. We have one individual who is part-time right now working on the planning aspects of our housing programs, but I would need to have either that individual be full-time, which would take away from some of our other activities that we do in that office around floodplain management and our resource and development activity and our interaction with the Regional Planning Commission. So it would put a burden, I guess, is the answer. Exactly what that cost would be, I wouldn't be able to say right now.
Maybe
Senator?
we could keep that idea on hold.
Certainly, we can put that item number 10 on hold, but I would like to reduce the amount that's in there from $19 million down to something, if the commissioner gives us a ballpark figure.
Is the funding that you're putting in this number 10, is that for the program itself? Because I would be agnostic, at least in terms of the amount of money that you wanted to put into funding externally, grants to communities that are under the Housing Champions program. The administration of that program would require an FTE.
This would require Senator Rosenwald to rewrite her amendment. Her question did talk about your department administering the Housing Champions fee, and so it'd be fair game for her to come in with whatever amendment she wants, but I don't want to leave that $19 million in there that anyone would expect that we were going to do anything, because I don't believe that's the sense of the committee. So, Senator?
Excuse me, we could take up the sections of the amendment that are for section 4, which is the appropriations for the management of that committee.
All right, so we're gonna hold it.
Okay,
If nothing else, I'm gonna drop this down to 1 million for the purposes, as long as that is acceptable to the committee. Again, this will be subject to change in but just for our report here, I don't want the 19 to stay in the report.
so
Senator Bradley?
Thank you. So I guess my view would be, and I had always assumed that it would be administered out of the $5 million funds. So if it does require separate funding for administration, as long as it's out of the $5 million, I don't have a problem.
Certainly, that would be something that could be done, but Senator Rosenwald, it appeared that in her question, she was wanting that to be an additional fund, and so we want to give her the opportunity to bring that forward to the committee. Senator D'Alessandro.
I think that's a good suggestion, but why put any number in? But we know that from what the president said, the ceiling is 5.
Again, that's where I would have gone with this, is actually taken no action, but I did want to give Senator Rosenwald the opportunity.
I understand.
So if the sense of the committee is to not put it on hold and take no action, which was what I had thought we were going to do originally, I am very comfortable with that. But I want to make sure that she wants to discuss it further, that she has that opportunity.
I think
well, I'm just wondering, because the position of the Senate was that it was going to cost $4 million to administer a program which was bigger. Now, clearly it's smaller, but where does $1 million come from? And if we start taking money out of $5 million, it's not very much money for municipal grants.
Again, Senator, I'm placing this one on hold. We'll take out the dollar figure, as Senator D'Alessandro said, for right now. And whatever you come back with, the committee will deal with at that time. The item is on hold. 11, Senator Ennis.
Yes, this is a nice, easy one. Simply setting up a commission that will look at the supply and demand of hospitality graduates and employees throughout the state for our state's largest industry. The objective here is to determine what the gap is between what the community colleges, high schools, professional programs, and universities are graduating to serve the restaurant, hotel, travel industry in our state. It's a good commission. Ideally, we'll get a report out of the commission that provides some guidance in terms of action that we might be able to take to enhance those education programs to support our industry.
Further discussion? Senator Ennis moves. Item number 11, seconded by Senator D'Alessandro. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. 12.
Okay. Yeah,
Big numbers in 12.
indeed.
So I would move that we hold on both 12 and 13, but I think there may want to be some discussion on 13. 12, we've sort of discussed already quite a bit. How's it?
Yep. All right. Further discussion on either of those items from senators?
If I could.
You may.
Number 13, the $3 million in funding for New Hampshire Pulp and Paper Stabilization Grant Program. Can you tell me a little bit about that? Is this directed to a specific company? Is it something else? What are we really looking at here, Commissioner?
I believe that this grows from some discussion that we had had about a year ago that had to do with the status of what are really two paper manufacturers in New Hampshire. One being Monadnock Paper over in the Cheshire area, and then there's the White Mountain Paper Company in Gorham. They are under new leadership, and they've at the time were expressing some pretty significant impacts as a result of the COVID-19 pandemic, whether it had to do with their energy costs, had to do with their labor costs, but overall they had some impacts that were discussed as being potentially in a place where they could use some additional assistance in getting them through that period of time. So I believe that's where this comes from. I can tell you that I've been to the mill several times, and the leadership that's in place right now is very different than the situation we were a couple of years ago. But they are a little bit in a one step forward, two steps back sort of situation still as a result of primarily due to the pandemic.
Okay. Do we have any estimate of tax revenues that we receive from the company, BET, et cetera?
I'd have to look that, Senator. I don't have that with me right now.
I think that would be helpful to understanding the importance of the 3 million and how it compares in terms of scale. So, Mr. Chair, I would appreciate if we could get those numbers before we take action.
Absolutely. Senator D'Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you're talking about Monadnock was a specialized paper company, very specialized paper. I think that the need for that has disappeared, to be honest with you. The second situation is that we still have alive is the place up in Berlin, the old Cascade Mill. Now they're working, but they've reduced the workload. They're producing toilet tissue, and if they did it right at the beginning, I think they could have succeeded if they properly cut the rolls and they put it out as a no-name brand and pushed it out the door. That they might have succeeded. They had an enormous investment in the machine. That group went tapioca and have been replaced by another group. This is a very volatile situation. We need a lot more information before we spend $3 million. The original people who owned the Monadnock Paper Company were the Verneys, Gilbert Verney's son. My father-in-law was vice president of that company years and years and years ago when they made parachutes in Manchester. So they've gone over through a number of transitions. I'd be very cautious about this one.
Senator Bradley.
I don't have an objection to this philosophically. What I want to make sure of is that we're not throwing good money after bad. That's really important. I want to know where the overall spend is and other priorities. So I would suggest that, we want a little bit more input from the commissioner on the point one, good money after bad. And I think that we should just hold this until the end and see where we are.
Okay, with no further discussion, I think it's 12 and 13 are on hold, and we're on to page 35, I believe. Okay. Items 1 through 5. I think that LBA, those are things that would,
Yes. 1 through 5 were requests
keep
from
looking to the wrong side.
Sorry about that. 1 through 5 were requests from the department to add additional federal funds they became aware of after the House phase.
Senator Bradley.
So question, thank you, Mr. Chair. All of these funds can be approved by fiscal, isn't that correct?
Yes.
does it need a footnote in HB1 or HB2 to allow that to happen? Or isn't it just par for the course of what fiscal normally does?
It's par for the course, and the authority already exists in RSA 1430.
So, I mean, to me, it would be, I'm glad the money is coming. Come to fiscal, you'll have a friend.
That's good to know. Thank you, Senator.
Okay.
And I'd say the same thing about 7, 8, and 9, too.
Go for the money.
All right, so 1 through 5, we don't need to take any action on, I believe. They're not in the budget now, so I believe that I want to sense a committee that that's no action on 1 through 5. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Okay, the ayes have it. On 6 through 9, I believe is what I heard.
Seven,
Should be-
7, 8, 9. Right.
7, 8, 9, and 10. Okay? Those do require action.
No,
Um,
they're federal funds.
7, 8, 9, and 10 are okay.
So I don't need to take those out of the, I mean, they're shown with the parentheses, so it's negative, so that's telling me that I have to take it out of a budget.
You're correct. Those amounts are in the budget now, so the action would be to take those out. And again, the department would come through and ask to accept them through the fiscal committee.
Right.
Okay. And people are, Senator Bradley.
I would just say, similar to items 1 through 5, there's no reason why the department can't come through fiscal. Fiscal has approved just about everything that I can think of that's come. And again, Commissioner, you'll have a friend, I think several friends at fiscal.
The only difference is that I need a formal vote on those to take
So
them
I would
out.
move that we remove items 7 through 10.
7 through 10. To remove them. Okay. Further discussion? Seeing none. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. So we need to go back to 6. Senator Bradley, your name is on 6 also?
Yeah, so my understanding on this, and correct me if I'm wrong, because this is a non-lapsing continually appropriated fund, we don't have to account for it because it's non-lapsing, or continually appropriated. So I think similar to the actions that we've taken already, we can do the same.
Further discussion? Senator?
Does this require coming to fiscal too?
Whichever.
This is a non-lapsing continually appropriated fund, so it's been in the budget, but it's not required to be in the budget. It would just exist like many other accounts that are not in the budget.
Senator Rosenwald.
Would be like the Renewable Energy Fund, it doesn't have to come to fiscal?
That's this
done.
same type of
Same.
action that
So
you took
this
last
one-
week, yes,
Wouldn't have to come to fiscal?
Right.
correct.
Thank you.
Commissioner?
Excuse me for being late. Just a quick question. Was there a particular reason that you were taking this money out of the hazardous waste cleanup fund? Was it just to meet a budget reduction goal?
My understanding is because it's continually appropriated, it doesn't need to be in the budget because it can go to fiscal.
And we can work with the LBA to figure out which class you want reduced. Okay, thank you.
You're going to get this money, okay? It just doesn't need to be in the budget, that's all. All right, so everyone understands that we're gonna take this out? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And moving on to 11.
Item number 11 is a House Bill 1 amendment proposed by Senator Waters that deals with fisheries and offshore wind.
Commissioner, you want the money?
Yes, we
You
would.
need the money.
So just to clarify, so the recap sheet is showing 40,000 to DES, which I think can work. But I noticed the amendment attached to it shows 10,000 going to DES and 30,000 going to Department of Energy. So I just wanted it clear in our mind which it was, I guess.
Since Senator Waters, LBA is going to tell us.
I think it was just a practical matter. The committee had already spoken with the Department of Energy when this amendment came along, and we still had environmental services open.
That's fine. I just didn't want to be double booking money for you, that's all.
Further comments? Senator Bradley?
The only thing I'd say is, I think it's a good idea to do this, but I'd propose we move it into FY '23.
All right, so Senator Bradley wants to move it in FY '23 and put in the appropriate language to have it non-lapsing till '25.
Second on that?
Second.
Multiple seconds. All right, I think I heard Senator D'Alessandro first, so we'll tag him with that. All right, does everyone understand what we're doing?
Yeah.
All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. 12, department request for change in language. Senator
Second.
Pearl moves it. Senator Birdsell seconds it. Discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. 13, Senator Rosenwald.
Thank you. I'd like to move amendment 1374S, which is Senator Carson's Senate Bill 169. This was $9.7 million appropriated to DES for the purpose of starting the work to connect Londonderry to public water systems to avoid the PFAS problem. As you recall, we amended the bill in the Senate to make sure that current repairs were not charged directly or indirectly. We passed this bill unanimously and laid it on the table. This amendment brings it forward out of current year surplus.
Okay, further discussion. Senator Bradley.
So, just to be clear, the amendment deals with the property tax issue, which was not dealt with in the original bill.
It doesn't change the way property taxes
But
might
it
be.
reflects what you wanted.
Yes, it is the language
Right.
of Senate Bill 169
I'll-
as
I'll
laid on the
second.
table in
I'll
this
second
amendment.
Senator Rosenwald.
Senator Rosenwald moves. Senator Bradley seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. 14. 14 deals with money not in this budget.
So, as we probably recall, Senator Ricciardi introduced Senate Bill 230. It is a more transparent and I guess secure source of funding for these infrastructure projects, but because we have funded in HB2, I think $27.8 million in existing programs. My proposal is to implement Senator Ricciardi's bill in the next budget for planning purposes for the department. So it wouldn't have a financial impact on this budget, but it would set a policy goal.
Further discussion? Senator Bradley's moving amendment 1590S.
Second.
Seconded by Senator Birdsall. Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. 15, Senator Bradley.
Thank you very much. In discussions with Senator Pearl, I believe the House passed this appropriation for $2 million. I think we were of the opinion that $1 million was sufficient, and the position should be funded out of the $1 million.
Senator Pearl.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. This bill came out of some work by the Solid Waste Working Group, which I sit on, and I think this will be a great program. But I do think $1 million is a good spot to get it started, and let's hope it's successful, and we'll continue funding it going forward.
All right. Motion by Senator Bradley, seconded by Senator Pearl. Discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. 16.
So, thank you, Mr. Chair. If you look down just below item 16, table bill, PFAS remediation fund grants, another Senator Ricciardi bill at $5 million per year. This amendment proposes to fund $2 million in 23. I think in particular it's designed to help, for costs that the department has, in particular for residents that are adversely impacted. So I think we heard testimony during the hearing on the bill that PFAS remediation is obviously being funded. There's lawsuits that the state hopes to recover. I think this would be helpful to the department, but it's not the same level of funding, but I think a reasonable level of funding.
Senator D'Alessandro, you have your mic on. Did you want a question? Further discussion? Seeing none, Senator Bradley moves and the chair will second. No discussion. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? The ayes have it. At the bottom of the sheet, we've got the bills listed, and I think we've dealt with them. And we're on to page 42, and we're going to be in recess for 10 minutes.
I'm good, thank you.
We'll call the committee back to order. We are on page 42, I believe. And we're ready for item number 1.
So for the Department of
Commissioner here,
Transport,
you might as well come forward, or Deputy Commissioner, just in case we need you. Yeah. You know, you may want to yell at us for anything, so, you know, at least you'll have a mic to do it. Only kidding. All right. So since item number 1 is personnel, any further comments on what we've been presented before? Just
No, I think we presented, you know, the need. It's not urgent, but it is a growing need, yeah.
discussion from the senators? Senator Burton.
Thank you for taking my question. Correct me, well, can you let me know, just a few weeks ago, they found John Marston with drones. Was this the same organization that they used the drones?
Yeah, I am unfamiliar with that story, ma'am, but the Bureau of Aeronautics, our drone use is almost exclusively on highway and FAA projects. So we're very much focused on LiDAR, infrared, things like that, and also quantity survey. Now, the Bureau of Aeronautics has overall responsibility for establishing the regulatory regime for UAS use in the state.
Okay.
As we do that, we do it in cooperation with the Department of Safety and other agencies that operate them. But for the Department of Transportation's use, this position will be a trainer position and also allow us to clear some of the 6-month backlog of projects we have. And we do it for 1/5 of the cost, so 1/5 of the cost of contract drone use. So it's highly efficient, saves the state money by creating this position. I can say that definitively.
Follow up.
So your program actually trains all of the departments?
That's the conception of it. As of now, we simply don't have the bandwidth to do any training whatsoever. But as we go through the UAS organizational study that we're going under right now with consultant assistance, our conception, other states around us in the New England region have many, many more UAS pilots than we do. We have 1. Neighboring states, 6, 7, 8. Because we're a highly efficient state, our conception is that we would limit the growth of our actual assigned pilots to 2, but use those to train other positions as an additional duty. So for instance, currently on staff civil engineers, we could train a cadre to operate this equipment, people in our Bureau of Construction, people in rail, so that they could check out a drone, but we'd centrally control the inventory and also be in central control of the training and the syllabus.
Well, this is just as a comment, I've always been very anti-drone, but after what they found with John Marston in Hampstead, I can really appreciate what the drones do, so I will be supporting this.
Thank you, ma'am.
Senator Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There are 2 entities that have drones, as I understand it, you and Safety. Why can't there be some cooperation?
There is,
okay.
Senator.
So if that's the case, then what do you need a program specialist for when the work is being done by Safety?
Yeah, and thank you for that question, Senator. The work's not being done by Safety in the sense that Safety has its own authorities and its own very specific use. I'm an Air Force pilot by background. Okay. It's very much like having a separate mission set, like fighters are one mission set, helicopters are another mission set. There's different missions and authorities that Safety has that we don't, although we are the regulatory body for overall drone usage, airspace usage, things like that. Our workload, because drones do things like quantity survey, quality control, things like this on our highway projects, so much more efficient than the old methods. The demand is enormous, and the demand is too much for the single pilot that we have. It's not allowing us to grow the capability that we need to grow to do this, to do our highway projects, FAA runway projects most efficiently. This position would allow us to do training and to build out the pilot force to do it at essentially no cost to the state as an additional duty for other people that are currently employees.
That's great to hear, and I think drones are a good way to go. I've seen some of them in action at military installations, but it would seem to me that if we could establish some kind of a synergistic relationship between safety and yourself, would get more out of our dollar, and they're basically using them to control traffic, I would think, and for search and rescue, as Senator Pertzel pointed out, a good way to survey that. But there's got to be a better way to get us interacting to take maximum advantage of the things we have. I mean, there's a cost-benefit ratio that's there. It's just a question of how we can get there.
Our Bureau of Aeronautics is actively engaged with their colleagues in the Department of Safety. They're part of our emerging drone study. So that we're thinking the same way, Senator, that the more synergy we achieve with the Department of Safety, the better. Although we don't want to cross streams necessarily, we don't have sworn law enforcement officers on our staff, so we defer to them with those mission sets. But we're actively engaged and available for search and rescue, things like this, disasters, our drone pilot, emergency response, as well.
Thank you.
Senator Birdsell moves, and Senator D'Alessandro, I think, seconds. The actions, further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. Items 2 and 3, a lot of money. I think that we want to give you a lot of money, but we have no idea how much money we're going to have. So although we'll let you discuss this, this one will go on hold till the end so that we know what kind of funds that we're dealing with. Senator D'Alessandro.
Well, thank you, Mr. Chairman. But you always come to fiscal for these monies, for a transfer, or you've done that for many years. So that option is always available to them. And I know we've done that with other items here, but that's an opportunity that they have, and it's something that we should put in the back of our minds. Thank you.
But I do know that there was a significant transfer to the highway fund in the last budget process. So unless there's anyone else who wants to talk on 2 and 3, that is on hold. Seeing none, moving on to 4.
So this item here, just so the committee understands what this is, it's a pretty technical nature item. In this accounting unit for the oversized and overweight permits, there is a revolving fund in statute. It's actually referenced in House Bill 2, but there's an incorrect source of fund code for this account. So we would want to clean that up, as well as there was approximately $66,000 over the biennium that there was a miscommunication in the House phase, and that amount was reduced, and the agency is asking for it to just be restored. So these are all other funds that would not impact the fees associated with it or highway funds in any way.
Okay. I'll move the item with the adjustments.
Second.
Senator Birdsell, seconds. Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. The appropriation for the matching funds for the aviation, I will also move that item. Seconded by Senator Pearl. Further discussion?
If I could.
Certainly.
What exactly are we doing with matching funds for? The Eastern Slopes Regional Airport, is that the Freiburg Airport?
Yeah.
Okay. So Freiburg's in Maine,
Yes, sir.
and does the state of Maine handle Freiburg Airport? I mean, why are we paying for the airport?
They do, and this is, what this is that airport received congressionally directed spending and have asked for assistance because that airport does service parts of our state. And we don't have an airport in that region. They've asked for part of the matching funds for that congressionally directed spending, and that's reflected in that fund. And we've previously testified neither in support or in opposition of this item. It's not our airport, but like you said, Senator, however, it does service citizens of our state, and so we have an active cooperative relationship with the airport, and they've requested this.
Further question?
Further question?
Is this an ongoing situation?
Not the first time, yes, sir.
Senator Bradley?
Yeah, I would just say it isn't the first time. Senator D, you probably recall the airport that was in Conway that is now the mall. And to be able to service, you know, that part of Western Maine, but more importantly for me, the town of Conway and all the tourism that's in Conway that produces an awful lot of rooms and meals revenue, it's very important we extend the runway. The state of New Hampshire has in the past helped fund this airport. This would be an assistance to the town of Conway that has to come up with, I think it's about $195,000 of local match. So this would help property taxpayers in the town of Conway, and I think it's a valuable airport. It's only maybe 10 minutes, 15 minutes, depending on the time of year from downtown Conway.
Senator D'Alessandro?
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chair. I've flown in and out of the airport on a number of occasions, and it is, when Wiley App sold his property and got rid of his airport in Conway, obviously, it is the only place, right? You're not gonna land in Whitefield or that baby, right? Or Twin Mountain. If you have any brains anyway, you're not gonna land there. So it's a good place to function out of it. Have they been improving it? Have they improved the runways?
Our understanding is they're moving forward with the project, yes, on the basis of the congressionally directed spending.
I think it's a valuable resource that New Hampshire people can use. Thank you.
Okay, seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Item number 6. Senator Bradley.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mr. Chair. This moves a highway fund expenditure that the department has into a general fund expenditure in 23. With this change, with the addition of Senate revenues that the Senate Ways and Means Committee voted on last week for the highway fund, and with the tax on hybrids and electric vehicles, it should bring the highway fund, instead of $7 million left over at the end of the year from the House version of the budget, to about 14. It's obviously not going to be enough to deal with number 2 and 3, but we're making progress with this, so hopefully we can fund this as a general fund, not highway fund.
Further discussion? Senator Bradley moves the item. I'll second it. I beat you this time, Senator. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And moving on to number 7. I guess 7 and 8. The difference is $20 million. And Senator Bradley, Senator D'Alessandro, who wants to speak first?
I'm happy to, working with Senator D'Alessandro, I think we can afford $20 million expenditure from the general fund to help cities and towns with the block grants. It was something that we did last year. I think last year it was 60-some million dollars. It was very important to local communities to do it. I think the big difference between the bill that Senator D'Alessandro sponsored and this, obviously the money, but it doesn't come out of the highway fund, it comes out of the general fund.
Senator D'Alessandro.
Thank you. Appreciate that, the words of the Senate President. And we did appropriate 66 million in the last biennium. We did 36 million for bridges and 30 million for roads in the municipal area. I think we got good benefit out of that. I will say that those bridge surfaces need help. And if this is, if the 20 does the trick, I mean, it's a partial way, I understand, but there is a dramatic need for those bridges to be taken care of, and certainly for the municipal roads. So I appreciate the fact that that leadership found a way to give us the 20. I would have liked 40, Bill, but I know how clever you are working, and you'll give such a guide to the municipalities that 20 will look like 40. So that's not a bad deal. Thank you.
Senator Bradley moves Amendment 1756S. Senator D'Alessandro seconds it, I believe.
You got it.
Further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. Just a census committee on 8 to take no action. All those in favor?
Aye.
The ayes have it. And moving on to number 9, Senator Bertzel.
Hi, very quickly, this was a request from the Department of Transportation, and basically exempts departments of transportation impacts associated with maintenance projects within existing rights-of-way and or permanent easement to certain hearing, mitigation, and notification requirements. Can you go a little bit into detail about why you wanted this through?
Yeah, this is related to the designation of prime wetlands. Prime wetlands are not necessarily designated by, it's more of a political designation than a functions and values designation. And it doesn't exclude, you know, our drainage or our maintenance responsibilities, you know, within the state right of way. So when, if it is a designated prime wetland today, you know, to do maintenance on the outlets of those pipes or some of those ditches, it can be delayed. We have to go to, we have to get a permit to do that work. We have to go to the Conservation Commission to do maintenance work within our own right of way. And it can add expense by having to do that, and as well as unnecessarily burdensome administrative and time. So we did in our original HB2 have some other language, and this is a refinement of that language based on coordination with DES to refine the language and address the exact RSA.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Further discussion? Senator Bertzel, I think you're going to move the issue.
Second.
And Senator D'Alessandro seconds. Seeing no further discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed? The ayes have it. 10, also Senator Bertzel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. 1565 is another one that was requested by the Department of Transportation. This basically allows Department of Safety to accept a request from another state to suspend registration privileges for vehicle registration plate for unpaid tolls incurred in the other state. So if a state comes to us and says, Mr. Smith has unpaid tolls, can you suspend his registration? We are authorized, New Hampshire is authorized to do that. It's basically reciprocal agreement with the other states.
Right.
We have it with them, they have it with us. And if you'd like to expand if you would like?
The only expansion is it's a little bit of a housekeeping issue, bill. 2 years ago, we had amended the governing state statute to change it from registration denial, revocation to suspension for in-state and how we treat in-state. This piece of the legislation that deals with the authorization from external, from other states, should have been changed at the same time. It was overlooked, so that's why I call it kind of a housekeeping to bring everything in alignment with the main statute governing easy pass and suspension of registration privileges.
Thank you.
Senator Bradley.
Yeah, just a question. What is the threshold before you get your license suspended for unpaid Easy Pass?
It's a short answer. It's quite high. Typically, we send out violations warnings at the first instance, and we send out with a $1 fee, urging them to pay the toll.
Certainly, we understand if
Yep.
you don't want the number published.
Yeah.
Okay, got it.
But
Since I get these notices with some frequency.
oh, you do. We can talk to Kathy. She can help you settle that.
I don't mind paying.
So, but no, there is a warning process, and it does take some time before you get to registration hold, and we really only are focused on the habitual offenders. We have quite a backlog, and we usually try to work with people to reach a settlement before getting to this stage. So,
Okay, further discussion? Seeing none, Senator Birdsall moves, seconded by Senator D'Alessandro. Any other discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And moving on to number 11.
The final item here is somewhat technical as well. As you know, the apportionment A highway block grant is 12% of the previous year's revenues for highway fund. And based on the Senate Ways and Means revenue estimates, are about 2.7 million over the 23, 24, and 25 above the House levels, we would suggest adding to the apportionment line $36,000 in 24 and $144,000 in 25. I also want to point out, based on the amendment adopted earlier today with the electric vehicle surcharge, that would also generate additional highway fund revenue. The apportionment associated with that is $84,000 in fiscal 25. So you'd probably want to look at adding $36,000 in fiscal 24 and $228,000 in fiscal 25.
For a total of 264.
Correct.
And I will move it.
I'll second.
So, further discussion?
Is this revenue?
This would be highway fund appropriations for the Department of Transportation to distribute to municipalities.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, it's 12% of previous year's road toll and motor vehicle fee and fine revenue, or fee revenue, yes. 36, and then in total will be 228,000 in fiscal 25. Correct.
Yep. Seeing no other discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it.
Mr. Chair,
Sir.
may I ask a question before we let them go?
Absolutely.
So we had a number 4, we were talking about the oversized and overweight permits. If I wanted to have a discussion about allowing night operation for moving of oversized and overweight vehicles, would I include safety in that, or would that be something I would just do with you folks in transportation?
If it's for permitting, it would be with us. If it has to do with enforcement, that would be more in Department of Safety's
Well,
bailiwick.
it would be permitting, about extending those to operating after dark
Yeah.
hours.
So that would generally be through the DOT,
Okay.
right?
I'll reach out to you at some point. Thank you.
Certainly, yep. Happy to help.
Okay, thank you very much. It Administrative services.
You saving the best for last?
Oh. I'm kind of wanting to take 1 and 3 together because they're requests for new positions, so
Sure.
if you would.
Two very different things. The one is just that, as you know, certain contracts go to governing council and certain don't. And for a long time, most of the work purchasing did, statewide contracts on all commodities, regardless of agency. For the most part, didn't. I mean, nothing didn't, but most of theirs didn't. Recent council changes require something like a tripling of the number of items that go to GNC. And as you probably know, any item that goes to governing council requires an enormous amount of more work that goes with it. And this is something that's out of our control, and the council's unlikely to retreat from because it's near and dear to their hearts. It means that I have a purchasing staff that is significantly burdened with work, and which is what we want them to be significantly burdened with, but we want them to have enough resources to keep up with it, and they're not even close. And so we're struggling with that significantly. And so this has come up recently. The change was effective the end of October, and I think we became aware of the magnitude of its impact probably starting with the January meetings. So this is not part of the governor's request. We asked for this in the House, and the House said no. So that's purchasing. The second piece is HR. As you know, the state has in the past not done a lot with recruiting on the HR side. The state in and of itself was an attraction, and so very little traditional recruitment was needed. It's not that the state jobs are unexciting or unattractive. It's that we got to compete in a different way. And so what we've been doing, we stood up with ARPA funds, a recruitment unit in the Division of Personnel, to try to help with best practices. We're doing a small amount of advertising, et cetera. I think the preliminary results of that are very strong. I know it's very hard for me to say that when we have enormous vacancy rates, but I think the vacancy rates are not related to this, rather that we're trying to address them through this way. They are ARPA funded, and they will go away when the ARPA funds go away, and I would like them to not go away. And I think that it's added to the state. So those are those positions, but they are all in fact new positions. The item number 3 is essentially the conversion of ARPA funded positions in class 59 to general funded positions in class 10.
Discussion from the senators. Senator Birdsall.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you for taking my question. Specifically with the number 3, the HR coordinator positions, can't those be contracted until the need is done rather than bringing on full-time people?
So what we did, we considered looking at a contract, right? This came up in fiscal when the ARPA item was initially approved. Hiring people into the position was cheaper than doing a significant consulting contract. And it could go away. And if we thought this was a temporary thing where we were never going to need to do recruitment and training of supervisors, then I think we would just say, leave it as class 59. But I don't think that's the way a modern business necessarily works. I mean, remember that the way things work today is that the person most responsible for hiring is a supervisor who has his or her regular job to do every day, which typically they don't have a lot of extra time built in, with little support. We're talking about 4 people to support the statewide operation. And what we end up doing is talking about best practices and helping supervisors who are not trained as recruiters or hiring managers. That's not why you hire somebody. You hire them because they're good at building a road. They're good at administering a program, and giving them some support.
Follow up?
But speaking as a former contract recruiter,
Yes.
a lot of these contract recruiters are already doing state-of-the-art recruiting and understand the nuances. So I just think it would be less expensive, and you could end it when I mean, we've had contract recruiters go on for 3-5 years in some of the companies that I've worked with. So don't you think it would be almost more beneficial to have them contract?
I know that if you ask the Division of Personnel and the people who are doing this now, that isn't their perspective, and they don't necessarily agree. But if you do think it's a program, I think one of the distinctions is we don't think it's a program that's going to go away. We don't think, like, the state as an employer is not going to stop recruiting people at some point.
Thank you.
Additional questions? I have one. If I cut you to one position in one and one position in three, tell me the impact.
Well, it's better than today and worse than if we got all 7 of them.
Senator Pearl.
Thank you, and thanks for coming in today. Do you feel that I mean, assuming the 10% pay raise survives the budget process, which I think it probably will, do you feel that will help you with recruiting and certainly retention, and maybe lessen the need for quite so many positions?
I think that the pay raise would have a significant benefit. I mean, I think anybody would tell you today that one of the state's best recruitment tool is its benefits, and the state's worst recruitment tool is its nominal pay. And some areas are a lot worse than others, and some areas are not that bad. So it should make a difference. I don't know if one of the messages I would like to deliver anyway is that a lot of what this is about is not it's not selling as much as it's making the state take advantage of every modern technique we can, and then training hiring managers to do a better job hiring and to make. I mean, some of it's dumb little things, like if somebody applies to you for a job and you don't call them back in the first couple weeks, you're probably not going to get them. That sounds stupid, but it's, people, you're like, they're no longer available for the job. Yeah, because they called you 30 days ago. Probably they were looking to get a job sooner than 30 days. And so some of that is ongoing, but it will help.
Okay. Seeing that, there are departments out there that their jobs have changed very much because of COVID, I am going to move this item with a committee amendment that we reduce the number down to 1 person and the appropriate dollar figures to be calculated by and put in.
Is that in each?
That's just one. We kind of got to do them separate, so, for this. All right, do I have a second?
Yeah, I'll second it. And I would just say, I would hope that the members of the council would understand that their repeated requests of Charlie are driving up the costs, and oftentimes for no discernible results that improve the situation financially. So I'll get off my soapbox, but that's my soapbox.
Further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And on item number 3, I will, similar motion, reduce the number down to 1 and the appropriate dollar figures to be put in by LBA. And I have a second by Senator Pearl.
That would.
Absolutely, Senator.
You got one with the purchasing, but it seems to me that the recruiting is an entirely different situation. If you're really going to recruit and you have a 20% vacancy rate across the board, one more person, I don't think is going to do the trick, unless you're hiring Superman.
Well, if he applies and certifies, we would certainly take a look at him.
Well, you will take them? I just think we could cut these things down, but one, I think that's not hiring anybody. That one, you'll hire one person, that person will come, find out the scope of the job, and leave. I mean, it's an enormous job. You're recruiting for many departments. You know, we got a huge force, we got a huge vacancy rate. You're looking for many specialized people. I mean, you take a look at the vacancy rate in Health and Human Services and the specialty of the people you're looking for, okay, that's one category. Take a look at DOT, you might be looking for maintenance people. That's a whole different world, isn't it? So you can't, I don't think you can get one person to do it all. I think we need at least two, if we're gonna do this and do it right, and we're gonna expect results to come across. Otherwise, we're just throwing money away. Senator Pearl, throwing money away. You know how we catch that based on the situation?
May I quickly respond?
Yes, sir.
Respectfully, I was at 0, so I've moved to 1 and now you're halfway.
All right.
Well, that's respectful.
And the chair would like to comment. Okay?
Yes, sure.
Again, as I said before, I think that several things have changed in various departments because of COVID. We have turned down many requests for personnel already at this. I think that having one in there is a recognition that things have changed, and that I would not really want to amend this motion to 2, but if the motion for 1 fails, then Senator would certainly have you move for 2.
I have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
So we have 4 temporary positions. This would still leave us with 4 positions, but 1 would be permanent.
Yes,
And 3, we would still have
it would be,
4 people
whether you
recruiting.
do 1, 2, or 4, they would be conversions.
Right, so we'd still have the same number of people recruiting.
The
for
only
now.
thing, the only thing I would add to that is the original positions are ARPA funded, and there's not enough ARPA, the ARPA funding will run out. Because these are only budgeted for a 2-year window for fiscal 22 and 23. So with the late hiring of recruiting for those positions, they probably have about maybe most of fiscal 24. I don't think they would cover all of fiscal 24. So probably during fiscal 24, those funded positions would be unfunded because the ARPA money would have run out for those.
Senator Birdsell,
No.
unless you're to continue.
Just follow up, so the first half of fiscal '24, we could still be reappropriating ARPA funds that haven't been spent, right? They have to be encumbered by September of '24. So
So theoretically, that's, yeah, I just don't want to, I don't know that anybody's planning it, if you know what I
we're
mean.
thinking
I, your mouth to God's ears, I'm in favor of it.
okay, thank you.
All right, so we have a motion to take the number of additional positions down to 1. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. And we're back to number 2. Number 2, I think that there is some support to move that into 23 money. Questions, comments from the committee? Okay. Senator D'Alessandro.
I mean, as long as we got it, it really, moving it into 23, you know what happens when you move it into 23, it becomes, it lessens the spend. Okay, fine, that's agreeable to me as long as we do it. Have any of you been in at the annex lately? I went there in 1972, when I first was elected to public office. It hasn't changed. It hasn't changed. And I think you're evacuating people from floors now, aren't you, over there? And moving people around and so forth?
I'm hesitant to use the word evacuating. We are moving people around and we're trying to fix some of the issues. And I did actually lose my office for about a month because of a leak in the ladies' room above my head.
I think it's a great building. I mean, it's a WPA building. It's really served us. I remember when the Attorney General was over there. I remember Warren's office was over there, and you know.
We don't have room to take him back.
No, I don't think so. But look, it's a wonderful building. It needs to be fixed. I understand. So
I do want to say that when I went over to register my LLC, you know, that the elevator did get me safely to the top, safely to the bottom, and I thought the areas of the building I saw looked very nice.
Have we, this talks about increased costs. Have we appropriated money already to renovate the annex?
There's money in a capital budget item to do one of the preliminary phases of the renovation, and I think the total money between the original capital appropriation and a small ARPA HVAC item is approximately, don't hold me to the precise number, but approximately 9 million, give or take. And our current estimate, based on some preliminary bid work that we've done, is that probably to do the entirety of the project will be somewhere between, at current bidding numbers, 22 to 24.
Senator Birdsall
Moves
moves.
item 2 to 2023.
And Senator Pearl seconds. If there's any need to change the language, you know, about, it is general fund, so if we need to make it non-lapsing or.
Yep, I'll do up a committee amendment, or a HB2 amendment to add the money to fiscal year 23 and make it non-lapsing at the end, or make it lapsing at the end of the biennium.
25, yep.
Yep.
All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Item number 4. Both 4 and 5 take money from 24 and put it into 23. That's, we'll take up 1781S first. Discussion from the senators. Seeing none. Senator Bradley moves.
Second.
1781.
Second.
Seconded by Senator Innes. Was there something else I needed to do? No. Okay. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Similarly, number 5 moves 3.6 from 24 back to 23. Is there discussion? Seconded. Senator Bradley moves. Senator Innes seconds. Seeing no discussion, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed, the ayes have it. And now we're at Amendment 2023-1448. Administrative Services to obtain and implement scheduling software shall not lapse until.
The previous, I think this is a previous House Bill 2 item, and it would have lapsed at the end of this biennium. And we just simply haven't completed the project. The scheduling software piece is, happens to be called Workforce Management. It's part of the state's ERP. And the state's ERP is currently, actually on Wednesday's Governing Council agenda, which is a significant upgrade of the Infor system, and this would be part of it. But because the work won't be done, none of that money will have been spent, but it will be spent as part of that contract, which we anticipate, hope, is approved on Wednesday.
Senator D'Alessandro.
Oh, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Charlie, is this a scheduling module that will be added to the system?
It is. So as you probably remember, and very unfortunate if you do, but the state looked at a couple of different scheduling options, and we had a relatively poor attempt in 16-17 with IntelliTime, and which is a standalone company. And since that time, the Infor product has a scheduling module, so it's directly integrated into the accounting system. This module has been, as part of our current operations, been stood up, implemented, I guess is the right word, in 2 departments, corrections and safety, the first 2 departments, and which are 2 of the more complex departments. You know, safety has 5 unions,
Right.
and corrections is, well, I don't have to tell you, corrections is complicated.
Further question. So in purchasing the model, have we also purchased maintenance and upgrades?
So what this will be, the money will be part of it. Yes, it's all part of that. And the model will be an integrated part of the Infor Cloud Suite platform that we are moving to. And so it's, because it's integrated, it's like all, you know, it's like the purchasing module and the payroll module and the HR module.
Right.
It's all one maintenance contract.
Okay, thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, I move the item.
Second.
Seconded by Senator D'Alessandro. Further discussion, seeing none, all those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Okay, further committee, scheduling. Next Tuesday, I think I want to start at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. And next Thursday, not this coming Thursday, but the next Thursday, we will not have Senate session. And so I want to schedule a meeting for that day to make sure that we've got the time. We should be in the final stages, you know, nearing that time. So I do want to schedule some time out there for us. Senator Bradley, I think I saw your hand first, and then Senator D'Alessandro.
So in terms of next Thursday, it's my hope that we don't have Senate session, but it's not guaranteed. But what I would say is if we do have Senate session, it's likely to be very short, and we should be able to meet as a committee after session.
And we'll take that in consideration when we send out the note, because I'm hoping that 1 o'clock would be a good time, and I think that from what I've seen of the bills that are out in the committee, we should be able to make that. But we can add it, or the completion of the Senate session, if you do schedule a session. Senator D'Alessandro.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Education is a big issue. We haven't wrapped our arms around education, and I wondered when is that going to happen? It's a significant piece of the budget, and I think all of us are concerned about that.
So do you see my eyeballs on the table?
Yes.
That's from looking at spreadsheets.
Do you have the schedule with you?
Those.
I can tell you about education. Senator, I worked with Senator because he's traveling quite a bit, but realizes he needs to be here too. So we have tentatively scheduled it, I shouldn't even say tentatively, for Friday, May 26th.
Okay.
And they may be, looking to do that day.
Thank you. So further question, if I might.
Absolutely, Senator.
What about, I've heard that there's some work being done in education. When is that going to be shared with us?
I would hope within a couple of days.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you.
Senator Oswald.
When do you think we might exact the bills we were referred last week?
I'm going to try to do those on tomorrow. So look at them. There's a couple that aren't going to get exact, but most of the other ones that, are down at the bottom of the list that we freshly got, I think that you can pretty much put those, or please be prepared to discuss them tomorrow. Senator Birdsall, you had a question?
Just, was it the 23rd that we're meeting at 2 in lieu of 1?
A week from today, yeah.
Yep,
Okay.
Tuesday. Tuesday, whatever Tuesday is.
23rd.
I'll make sure you know 4 FMs out of EDA.
All right, we appreciate that.
All right. Marie's already done it.
Okay. All right. Do I have a motion to come out of executive session?
So moved.
I have a motion and a second to come out of executive session. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed say nay. The ayes have it. Our business today being complete, we are adjourned.